back. My name is Jay Weidner. You listen to Smoke and Mirrors every Monday through Friday night, 6 to 7 in the West Coast, 9 to 10 on the East Coast, all around the world. On the Internet, you can hear us on the Global Star Radio satellite. You can hear us at sacredmysteries.com. You go to our website, smokeandmirrorsradio.net. You can also write to me at editor@smokeandmirrorsradio.net if you got a question or anything. Normally I would probably open up the phone lines, but I think that what Tad is saying here is just too dang interesting to interrupt. So I want to get back to this astrology thing, and you have a different take on astrology than actually almost anyone I've ever known.
I do.
And it's really what I think I admire most about your work. So let's just get into the nitty-gritty. Most people got this crazy, of course, superficial idea of what astrology is, and yours is such a deep view that I think you just need as many minutes as you can to, like, extrapolate on what it is that you do. What is it that you do?
I think you're right, and I agree with you. You know, that what I discovered many years ago was that traditional astrology, even though we're in, the early years of a new century right at the moment, that a lot of our views about the way we perceive time are quite antiquated, and that it's extremely important for us to really understand on not just a personal but a collective level exactly what's going on. And as I was starting to say before, that the ideas of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky are very, very interesting, because they posited that one of the primary ideas behind all of this is that we think of our sun as sitting in space somehow with planets revolving around it. But in reality, as the Mayans knew, in fact, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, it doesn't really work that way, because we're on one of the outer rings of the Milky Way galaxy. And we're traveling around the galactic center. We're spiraling around this galactic core at a phenomenal rate, something in the region of 500,000 miles a day, which means the sun is revolving around the galactic center at about 20,000 miles per hour. It's hard to understand. But what that means is that instead of just planets revolving around this lazy sun in space and time, in reality, it makes a moving pattern with these spirals. And the planets moving around the sun, the closer ones like Mercury and Venus make very tight spirals, and then the Earth is a little longer, and then Mars longer still. But what's interesting is that when you draw this image in space and time, which I've done in my book, The Round Art, published 30 years ago, that when you show this spiraling solar system, it's fascinating because it looks very much like models of the DNA molecule. The DNA molecule in every cell is also a spiraling mechanism that within a cell which is submicroscopic, they say that the DNA, if you could actually expand it, would be miles long. And one of my postulates is that this spiraling solar system through time, and again, a horoscope is just simply a slice through that spiraling solar system at the time and date and place when you were born. But what's interesting about it is that there's an exchange of information between the spiraling solar system and the DNA in every cell in your body. So those of us who have made an effort to contact the information that is being transmitted between the cells in your body and the solar system around you, if you can find a way to make that communication, then a whole other world of information becomes available. And certain individuals in the past have been able to track this DNA or track the spiraling solar system back into time, and I think it's even possible to track it ahead into the future. But what's intriguing about it is it provides really a kind of tangible way of talking about concepts like not only 2012, but also about reincarnation. And I've actually written books that have talked about both of these ideas. But what's fascinating about it is that it brings every single one of us into very close contact with the real core nature of our world. You know, Edgar Cayce, the great psychic, used to talk about something he called the Akashic Record. It was a common term within the Theosophical Society, the mystical societies that were common in the late 19th century and throughout the 20th century. And what's interesting is that he talked about the Akashic Record as though it was a kind of eternal library in which you could see everything that had happened in the world, and actually you could see into the future as well. And he talked about it as though it was somewhere up in the air above us, like some kind of invisible ether. But when I came across these ideas 40 years ago, I began to realize that this Akashic Record, which the psychologist Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, for example, or in Tibetan Buddhism it's called the Dharmakaya, that this realm that embodies all space and time exists in you. It exists in every cell in your body, and if you can discover how to tap into it, then other worlds are available, and that's the concept that's really kind of propelled me for all of these years, because through processes like meditation, through certain spiritual practices, through accidentally one can access it through certain arcane substances even, but it's an incredible realm because it gives a real direct connection for each individual to this kind of timeless process that's happening around us. And because everything's accelerating so quickly, we really need at this point to really activate the connection to time and space. And it's fascinating because when you do this, and I've made really a life out of going to those places, that once you begin to do this, you have a different perspective on what's going on, and you realize the importance of 2012, which is kind of marking, not necessarily the end of the world, but it's marking a huge transition. I think it's the death of a particular way of perceiving reality and the possibility of a new concept of reality emerging that's truly relativistic. The old view I described is very static. It actually is like the way Greeks or Romans saw the world 2,000 years ago. And, we need a more relativistic view that understands how time changes. There are mathematical formulae that describe it. I have computer programs I've created over the years that look at a person's lifetime, not beginning at birth, not in an abstract way, but going back to conception.
So I want to talk about that. We're going to take a break here, Ted, and we're going to be back. Incredibly fascinating. I love the whole idea of the DNA-shaped solar system. I also like the idea of how it shows that time travel is also space travel, and space travel is also time travel. We're going to be back in just a couple minutes. Smoke and Mirrors. My name's Jay Weidner. Go and listen up. Go to sacredmysteries.com. We have a new video coming out about Tad. Things are happening. We'll be right back.